Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Now, as you may be aware, Symmetra is going to be available in comp very soon in a couple of days, and I guess we'll finally see whether this whole rework or this waiting has been worthwhile and whether it's going to be successful or not. Which brings me to this video because I want to know whether you guys think she'll finally become a meta pick or whether she's going to stay the way she was and only be picked in certain situations in ranked. Now obviously we'll know this when it's well into the season and she's available to play in comp and everyone has had a chance to see how she really fits into the game. But I do have to say that I have serious doubts about the success of her rework. For example, in 6 to 7 quick play games, I've been the only Symmetra player in the whole game. It feels like the enemy team or people on my team don't even want to give the new rework a try, or they're bored of it already or some other reason. But from that, I mean, if they're not going to play Symmetra in quick play, why would they even play her in competitive? Now, I would love to be proven wrong and to see Symmetra in every comp game and really be seen as a viable and essential character in the meta, but unfortunately I don't think that's ever gonna happen, and here's the reasons why. So most importantly, I don't think that Symmetra's kit right now as it stands meshes together very well. We have to remember that she's put in the DPS or damage category now, so her job isn't to support her team anymore, but really to do damage. Similar to like Junkrat or Mei or whatever. But in that sense, I don't think her abilities complement each other that well. If you think about it, most of the other DPS heroes have some sort of ability such as self-healing or evasion to protect themselves in, critical moments, right? But Symmetra doesn't really have that. She has a teleporter and turrets, yes, but you have to set them up in advance, otherwise they're pretty much useless because you're not going to get out in time. And if you're going to go to so much effort to set up your teleporter and turrets and try to flank and try to assassinate the enemy team from behind, why don't you just pick some other DPS hero like Doomfist, who is so broken right now and can literally like take out 3 supports in the space of 10 seconds. I mean, why would anyone want to pick Symmetra when you can pick other heroes like that? And I know that you can use your teleporter in other ways, but I'll get to that later in the video. But continuing on, her role right now is quite confusing because on one hand you have her right click or her orbs, which actually do quite a lot of damage. They're quite fast, but you have to sort of stand at a certain distance to really make the most use out of them. So in that regard, she's kind of like a long range DPS hero, but not quite up to par with heroes like Soldier 76 or the other hit scans. In fact, she's almost like a ground version of Pharah because her orbs do very similar damage to Pharah's rockets. And of course you also have her turrets, which are pretty good for zoning the enemy team, but I've noticed in my games recently that people are really quick to adapt and they're almost destroying the turrets as quickly as you put them down. So that part of her kit aside, you have her primary fire, which has the most DPS output potential, but at the same time it's almost like the weakest part of a kit right now because it's almost useless if you have nothing to charge it against, and I know that this is an ongoing issue that a lot of people have voiced their opinions on. But anyway, this part of a kit makes it feel like you almost have a melee option to go in and do a lot of damage at close range when you really don't, given Symmetra's non-existent survivability. Given the time it takes to ramp up damage on the beam, plus the fact that you almost need to have perfect tracking to really do much with it, and the fact that Symmetra only has 200 HP compared to other heroes, it seems pretty grim when you need to go into melee range and actually do something with your primary fire, so that part of a kit is almost non-existent. So ultimately, in our current state, what we're left with is like a hybrid long-range utility support DPS character, which doesn't really seem to make sense to me, and I don't really see her having an essential place in the current meta. Secondly, let's go back to her revised teleporter, which I think is an amazing ability, but the fact that you need really good coordination to make the most use out of it sort of is like a double-edged sword in competitive at the moment, because most people aren't going to communicate when they're using teleporter, and teammates aren't going to use it either. Like in the times that I've played the new Symmetra, nobody has ever used my TP unless it's very clear that they need to use it to get to a certain place quicker. In my opinion, I think this is a great ability for high-level play, but is going to be something that's wasted at solo queue competitive level. For example, I don't know if you guys play Heroes of the Storm, there's a character called Medivh who also creates portals, but he has some of the lowest, lowest pick rates in ranked, whereas he is probably one of the strongest heroes in pro play, and that just shows how certain abilities can have such huge differences at different levels of competitive play. And just as something to think about, I've noticed that people really are destroying teleporters really quickly once you place them down. So I feel like flanking is going to become less and less effective once people know what you're up to with it. And you could also potentially put your team in a bad situation if you put down a teleporter and your team potentially uses it without knowing that you actually didn't put it down for them. Last but not least, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, there's always been a stigma around playing Symmetra, and that hasn't really changed until recently with this rework, where we've kind of seen some previous like DPS or tank mains trying out Symmetra for the first time and really giving her a go. And to be completely honest, knowing people's egos, I don't think this is going to change much. And I mean, partly it's kind of our fault as well, those of us who have played Symmetra from the beginning, because you know, I've noticed that some of us give these players flack when we see them hopping onto the bandwagon and playing the new Symmetra when they're probably, you know, the kind of players who would have flamed us in previous seasons with the old Symmetra. Point is, judging from my experiences in quick play as well, and the fact that nobody is playing Symmetra right now besides those of us who were original Symmetra mains, I don't think we're going to see any major new players sort of sticking with Symmetra in the short term, but I don't know, this could change. I mean we'll find out when Symmetra comes out in comp. Anyway, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think Symmetra is going to be meta once she is available in competitive, or do you think there's going to be a need for Symmetra 4.0? Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.